I'm gonna get you. But it wasn't that easy. He tried something the next day, it didn't work. Tried something the day after that, it didn't work. And every night there was killing one of his oxen. And finally, luckily for Paul, he was a reader. And he was reading the evening paper. It come in the evening. And now, in an advertising box, he seen something. It said, giant bumblebees from Australia, guaranteed to sting anything. I'm gonna get me a couple of them. So he rode away, and import-export being what it was in them days, it wasn't long before a buckboard wagon with a flatbed come bumping up the rutted road what led into the logging camp. And there, on the back of it, was a giant box, heavy wood covered with chains and bars. And there was little stickers from all around the world on it. And the fellas, they come out and say, hey, Paul, what you got in the box there? What's that? Yeah, what you got there, Paul? When all at once the box started jumping around on the back of the wagon. And Paul said, it's for me, boys. He took it, and he went and took it up to the bluff that night, and he set it right down, he put his head down, and he started to wait again. And he waited all night, until just before dawn, he heard them coming. He said, I'm gonna get you now. And so he ripped off the lid on the box, and out come two giant bumblebees. Why, their bodies was big and thick, and their wings was out to there, and they looked at him, and sticking out the back of each one was a Bowie knife. And Paul said, yeah, go sting them. And so the bumblebees flew up toward the mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes landed in two pine trees. And the bees flew right up to in front of them. Paul said, oh no, they like each other. It was worse than that. They fell in love. I ain't kidding. And all four of them flew off. Just as happy as they could be. And Paul Bunyan said, oh no, they like each other. It was worse than that. They fell in love. I ain't kidding. And all four of them flew off, but just happy as they could be. And Paul sat back and said, oh no, I done it now. But you know, next morning, Squeaky Johnson did not come banging on the grub house door. Another day passed, no dead ox. A week went by. No 7 dead ox. 2 weeks went by. Paul was walking around camp figuring he had done it. He got rid of the bugs. And I made him a 40-foot high stack of flapjacks just to make him happy for getting rid of them bugs. And he sat down and said, good morning, Sam. I said, good morning, Paul. And maple syrup was coming down and the butter was melting. And he was just about to dig that fork into it when... Uh-oh. Squeaky. I can't explain it. You got to come down. Paul Bunyan, all worried, he come running down to the lower field, and he stopped and said, oh, no. Oh, no. The giant mosquitoes was back. Next to him was the bumblebees. They was on treetops. But that's not what Paul Bunyan was worried about. On 25 other treetops, there was babies with a Bowie knife out the back and a proboscis out the front. And Paul said, oh no, and suddenly in a big whirling cloud, they swirled up and they started killing his oxen left and right. And then Paul was running around swatting at him, but he couldn't get a single one. And finally, he just gave up and he went up to the bluff and he sat down. Paul Bunyan is an American, and there ain't nothing Americans can't do when they put their mind on it. He couldn't kill them bugs. But lucky for him, it was a reader. He was reading the evening paper. Come in the evening. And now, in an advertising box, he seen something. It said, barge loads of sweet Louisiana molasses, sweetest thing on earth. I'm going to get me one of them. So he rode away. And steam travel being what it was in them days, it wasn't long before A big paddle wheel steamboat, 2 giant paddles pulling the water, 2 giant smokestacks lifting smoke, come on, heading up the river. And towing behind it on a log towing line was a barge open to the sky of dark, sweet Louisiana molasses, sweetest thing on earth. And Paul Bunyan paid the man and picketed the barge right down on the sandbar by the lower field. And that night, he went up to the bluffs, and he just sat there, and he started to wait. He waited all night, until just before dawn, he heard them all coming. They was flying in a big cloud, and Paul just didn't do nothing. He just sat there and ground his fingers into his knees and said to himself, I ain't gonna move. I ain't gonna move. And they was flying around, and they was sighting down on the oxen. Them last few oxen was down there looking up at the sky. But Paul said, I ain't gonna move. I ain't gonna move. And finally, the big lead mosquito, he was sighting down that proboscibosis down there toward that last ox down there, when suddenly he smelled something. Why, he smelled the sugar air pouring off that molasses in the river. He never smelled nothing so good in all his life. So he turned and he landed on the barge, and all the other ones followed him. They landed on the barge, folded their wings, and they all started to drip. Ah, 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 and they drank, and they drank, and they drank. Paul just sat there with his fingers ground into his knees. And finally, an hour passed. He figured it was enough time. So he slipped off the bluff and landed in the field, took a step, and stood in the river above the barge, looking down. And them greedy bugs, they was drinking so fast they didn't even see him. When suddenly the big lead mosquito looked up and seen Paul Bunyan towering into the sky up there. He fell back on the barge, and the bumblebees seen him, and they fell on the barge. Even the babies, they tried to fly, but all their bellies were so full of sweet Louisiana molasses, they was too heavy to get off the barge. And Paul Bunyan just looked down and said, gotcha. Yeah, well, all he done is he kicked the barge loose. And he let it float down the river to the Gulf of Mexico. And once it got out over deep water, he took the top of a mountain and threw it up over the moon, and he let it land right on the barge out there in the Gulf. And all them bugs, they sank like stones to the bottom of the sea. Something like that. So I'm telling you this. If you are ever in a camp and you hear something land on the roof, you don't know what it is, hey, you better hope it ain't no giant mosquito. Huh. Thank you, Sam.